5:07, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. Hope you are doing well. Thursday, July 10th, and I woke up this morning because, I go to bed really, really early. And I don't know when this story broke. Maybe, Joan, you can help me, but the fact that we actually have now no terminations, no firings.
Not a one.
Secret Service. We got some suspended, nobody fired, as the investigation apparently has now wrapped up into the assassination attempt of Donald Trump.
And it took a year.
It is hard to believe we are almost a year out from the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. And so we all remember that horrible day, right? July 13th of 2024, President Trump speaking in Butler, Pennsylvania, shots rang out. I'm not going to play the audio. I think we all have heard it enough, and some of us have PTSD. But, he narrowly missed getting killed on stage, an attempted assassination. Now, we know that 6 Secret Service agents have now been suspended, not fired, but suspended for anywhere from 10 to 42 days without pay. Now, remember how horrified we all were when we started finding out how lackadaisical the Secret Service seemed with all of this. I mean, remember the whole sloped roof thing?
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so, the decision was made to secure the building from inside.
That, of course, then Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle, who ended up resigning in disgrace. But remember that sloped roof where it was like, how did you not have anybody guarding that sloped roof where the shooter ultimately was camped out and took a really easy shot at Donald Trump? Well, it's because it was a sloped roof. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that was the most crazy thing we ever heard.
Well, the guy was up there.
Yeah, right.
And then when this whole thing ended and they had the investigation going on, they had, Congress people that were walking on that sloped roof. And and some of these people are like really old, some of these Congress people. So you had really old people from Congress that were walking around on this incredibly dangerous sloped roof. She said, oh, but wait, we were okay because we had people inside. So they had people inside the building where the shooter was on the roof, but it was too dangerous for the people in our own Secret Service, which, by the way, I'm assuming that some of those people within the Secret Service, I know we have former military in the Secret Service. People that fought in, places like Afghanistan, where you have a lot more difficult terrain to deal with than a sloped roof. So part of this was just so ridiculous. And then I wake up this morning to the fact that nobody has been fired. Then, of course, remember this, Joan. Remember the crowd, incredibly, saw the shooter on that sloped roof, rifle in hand, laying down, and tried to warn the local law enforcement.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, see him? He's laying down. You see him?
Yeah, he's laying
Remember
down.
that?
Yeah, look. There he is.
Now, I posted that video on my X feed at Dan Mandis Show of what happened. So they knew that the dude was up there for 10 minutes before Donald Trump took the stage and 20 minutes before he ultimately opened fire. How did you let this guy stay up there for 20 minutes? They said that he was suspicious. Yet nobody has been fired. Only suspensions, nobody fired. Now, think about all the failures. And I know for a lot of us, this is review. But for new people that come to the show every single day, and if you don't know the failures that happened on that day where Donald Trump almost lost his life, then it makes this morning's headline, where nobody fired, just a bunch of folks, 6 people suspended, all that much more shocking. Inadequate planning and coordination. Nobody is watching that roof. They were not watching what they call line of sight vulnerabilities, which means that the shooter had a clean shot on Donald Trump from that incredibly dangerous sloped roof. Yet again, nobody fired. They had radio issues where they were A, not working, and B, not compatible. They also actually knew the vulnerabilities of that roof, yet they didn't do a darn thing to safeguard against what happened. Again, they were inside the building with the sloped roof, which I was so shocked by at the time, because it's like you're inside the building, but anybody, I mean, I'm an idiot when it comes to this kind of stuff. Even I know that having Secret Service inside of a building, I know the vulnerability is up on the roof. And all I've done is I've watched documentaries on what happened at JFK in Dallas. I mean, come on. Yet during the testimony, the guy in charge, remember all this, Ronald Rowe? He got in a shouting match with members of Congress.
I actually responded to Ground Zero. I was there going through the ashes of the World Trade Center. Mm-hmm. I was there at Fresh Kills.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you,
Congressman.
Were you the special agent in charge?
To show respect
you were not.
For a Secret Service member that died on 9/11.
Oh, that you're trying to be.
Do not invoke 9/11 for political purposes.
Oh, I'm not. I'm invoking this.
You are, sir.
Gentlemen,
and you are out of line.
I would like to ask him a question. Please.
You are out of line, Congressman.
So that was, because you remember that the guy Ronald Rowe, and I don't remember the entire dialogue, but he went into this whole spiel about 9/11, and it almost seemed like what he was trying to do was invoke 9/11 to distract from what happened on that horrible day in July of 2024. And that, of course, the shouting match ensued. But I love how he's like, show some respect, when he, based on his performance on that day in Butler, didn't deserve any. And remember, we all said at the time, and it was one of those moments where none of this made any sense, because at the time, and I still believe this, it was like this had to be intentional. Purposefully allowing Donald Trump to be exposed, or this had to be one of the greatest Secret Service failures ever, because the amount of screw-ups was incredible. Did you feel that way, Joan? Where when you were watching all of this happen, and all of because we all saw what happened, and then we paid attention to the investigation, we paid attention to the testimony in Congress, and you were like, this was either a massive, massive, massive screw up on so many different levels, or it had to be intentional.
Well, my first thought was it had to be intentional.
Exactly. They intentionally left the president vulnerable. That's how bad this was. Yet, this morning, the headline, 6 people suspended, nobody fired.
Nobody fired.
Nobody fired. 5:15, time to check the roads on WTN. Thank you, Joan. As far as the weather for today, a high of 92 and scattered thunderstorms as well. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So waking up this morning, where we do see that 6 people within the Secret Service have been suspended. Nobody has been fired, despite the incredible mistakes that were made on that horrible day in July in Butler, Pennsylvania, when there was an attempt on Donald Trump's life. And so I'm playing some of the audio that kind of reminds us as to just how bad of a screw-up this was. And you have the guy in charge. Again, the guy, his last name is Rowe. Is it Donald? Ronald Rowe. Ronald Rowe. And he also got into a shouting match with Senator Josh Hawley over the fact that, nobody had been fired at that point. At that point, when they were having the investigation, we were all screaming, how has nobody been fired? And this was just a couple of months after that shooting in July. And at first blush, you see the amount of screw-ups, which I have already gone over many of them, that led literally to people dying.
Is it not prima facie that somebody has failed? A former president was shot.
Sir, this could have been our Texas school book depository. I have lost sleep over that for the last 17 days,
Then
just like you
fire
have.
somebody to
and I will
hold them
tell you,
accountable.
Senator, I will tell you, Senator, that I will not rush to judgment, that people will be held accountable, and I will do so with integrity and not rush to judgment and put people
I can't believe
unfairly
that you
persecuted.
are unfairly persecuted.
Unfairly,
We've got people
sir,
who are
we
dead.
have to be able to have a proper investigation into this, Senator.
So I wonder if this was a proper investigation. And I wonder how Donald Trump feels this morning. I don't know. Has he said, oh, you know what? Hey, KGB or Joan, can one of you check Truth Social?
Mm-hmm.
Has Donald Trump, Joan, do you know, when did this story come out?
It was before I went to bed last night, so
Okay. I don't know.
before 7 o'clock.
Before 7 o'clock. Okay.
Yeah, probably.
All right. So I'm just curious as to whether or not the president has anything to say about this. Now, remember, Holly mentioned that people died, and we do remember that firefighter that was killed, Corey Comprator. Two others were injured as well, David Dutch and James Copenhaver. And so you heard Holly say, fire someone, just fire somebody, anybody. But apparently nobody is going to be fired. Part of this was that you had this situation on top of so many other Biden-related issues of incompetency, right? Everywhere you looked within the Biden administration, there were examples of the clumsiness and the incompetence of the Biden administration. Remember this moment?
Is it acceptable that you have still not heard, at least publicly, from the Secret Service director?
Oh, I've heard from him.
So,
I've heard from him.
Well, the Secret Service director, again, was a woman. So when Biden said,
Oh, I've heard from him.
Have you? Because him is actually a her, President Biden at the time. The Secret Service director, of course, again, Kimberly Cheadle. Oh, and by the way, a good friend of Jill Biden. Remember that whole part of the story as well. So apparently this decision to suspend 6 and not fire 1 was apparently made by the Secret Service Office of Professional Responsibility and the Office of Integrity. Do you know what I think we need to do? I think we need to rename the Office of Professional Responsibility the Professional Irresponsibility. I think that's what we need to rename that office, and of course the Office of Integrity or lack of integrity. By the way, they have also, at least not yet, come out with any named specific person or persons that have been suspended, so they're not talking about that either. So a lot of people, at least me, waking up this morning, maybe you heard about the story last night, but a lot of people waking up this morning scratching their heads saying that, oh, no, there is nobody is going to be fired, only suspended. I'm assuming since KGB or Joan, you did not pipe in, so the president has not made mention of anything regarding the suspensions, but not terminations.
He wished Lindsey Graham happy birthday, but no talk about suspensions.
He wished Lindsey Graham a happy birthday.
I don't get it.
Do you know what I bet you? If Lindsey Graham is such a war hawk, I bet you that on his birthday cake, they're rockets instead of candles.
Dan, you made me laugh.
There you go.
What?
I got a guffaw from Joan Jones. I got an eye roll from KGB. So far, it's a good morning. 521, by the way, I'm going to check into the super text line here momentarily. 615-737-9986. You can also follow me on X at Dan Mandis Show. Joan, what's coming up in the news? We
have more on those Secret Service suspensions and a local job fair that could attract a lot of attention today around here. Those stories and more coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
5:35, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I think Joan, did Joan just run into your studio, KGB, to figure out the whole Rumble thing?
Yes.
So we're trying to figure out the whole Rumble thing. So apparently, Chad said yesterday, if you're just joining us, we are apparently on Rumble, but Chad said yesterday that we are maybe suspended because of inactivity. I don't know what's going on, and I don't know if anybody knows what's going on, if we're actually on Rumble or not.
Other people are saying the same thing that I'm seeing. You put in 99.7 WTN and you come up with ETN. WTN or E.
Yeah.
It's the
I even tried
religious
Super
channels.
Talk.
EWTN, like air WTN, which of course makes perfect sense. Anyway, well, whatever. Perhaps they're trying to fix it. I've always said, though, that we should be on Rumble.
Oh, yeah.
Ain't that hard, folks?
Yeah.
Well, apparently it is. So anyway, follow me on X at Dan Mandis Show. So I don't know if you actually follow me on X, Joan, but I posted.
You know I do, Dan.
So I posted something yesterday then. I don't know if you saw this, but there is a video. You know, part of, you know, when the Democrats, they're all screaming, oh, the Republicans are trying to take away everybody's Medicaid, right? So a couple of things. And I think this needs to actually be a thing where Republicans start calling out these people who are ripping off the American people through fraudulent Medicaid claims and so on. So I went ahead and posted, if you want to go to my social media, there is a woman, and she's got, I don't even know what you call them, but, you know, the septum ring or whatever it is. And so she, and it looks like, I don't know what, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I don't know what the hell is also in the video. You've got the woman with the septum ring, and then you've got what I believe she says is a woman, but he's got a beard. So I don't know what's happening in this video, but it all makes perfect sense because they're bragging about how one woman, the one woman with the septum ring, is on, you know, not disability, Medicaid, whatever it is. And they're bragging because they're talking about how the other woman with a beard is being paid by the government to take care of the septum ring woman.
This is gross.
It is gross. Well, there's F-bombs in there, so you don't want to air it. But they're proudly, I guess my point is that all across social media, you have people that are bragging about living off the government dole. And the other day, I think it was Scott Desjardins who said that people like this who are perfectly able to work. I'm looking at this woman now. I'm trying not to, but I have to for the bit. So I'm looking at this woman now, very large woman, got a septic ring, or whatever that thing is, and septum ring in her nose, and whatever that is next to her. And they're laughing about ripping off the government. They're actually ripping off the American people. They're ripping off me. They're ripping off you. And they're proud of it.
They're giggling about it.
They're giggling. Okay, can you tell what that thing is next to her?
No, I can't. So the woman that you're talking about with the septum ring,
yeah,
her voice is very low. The one with the beard that looks like a guy sounds like a girl.
I don't get. That's what I mean. I'm so confused.
Yeah.
It is so weird.
I feel like I'm in a time warp or something. It's just weird.
It's like an alternate reality.
Yeah.
They look like aliens to me, to be perfectly honest. But my point is, this dovetails off of something that I posted a couple of days ago, where you have another woman who is doing a happy dance in the grocery store because she spent all $3,000 of her food stamps or whatever it was, again, clearly ripping off the American people. And so my point is that if I'm the Trump administration, I'm going to start hunting these people down. And the ones that are posting on social media, they are so proud that they are ripping off the American people. Hunt them down. There is no reason why this woman with the septum ring, is that septum ring? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Joan?
septum.
Septum ring. I called it septic earlier.
I know. It's that space right between the center of your nostrils.
She looks like a bull.
Yeah.
Like I want to call it a bull ring, but whatever. And so there's no reason why she can't go down to Walmart or Target or some other place and get a job. Now, would I hire someone like this? No. But you know what? Somebody might. And I would probably be willing to bet that and I don't want to sound like I'm bagging on people who work at Walmart, but there are places that will hire people like this. So she needs to get out and she needs to get a job. Go find it. Here, I'll repost it right to the top. I don't know if I can do this, actually. Can I repost? go find it on my X feed because that is what you are paying for. And that is what Donald Trump is trying to stop. And so when you see the left and they're all, oh, people are going to lose their benefits, their Medicaid and all this kind of stuff. That's who Donald Trump and the Republicans want to go out and actually work. Is very simple, friends. 20 hours a week. It's all we ask. 20 hours a week. You work or you go to school or somehow you serve your community. In that video, I don't know if you have watched the whole thing, Joan, but at one point, the bearded female is telling the low-voiced whatever it was with the septum ring that she is getting paid by the government to change the socks of the other one. Like, I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
And you and I get up every morning, go to work, do a job, pay our bills.
It's exactly
pay
right.
our taxes that pays these people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why this is what we do in America.
I call these people creatures. Like I can't relate to them in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I refer to them as creatures. It's probably wrong, but I mean, that's what they are to me, is they are creatures and they are living. And the reason why I'm dehumanizing them is because I resent being ripped off. I resent the fact that there are people who, you go to, I forget where I was the other day, but I saw a guy with probably a veteran who had his legs blown off and he had, I don't know what you call them, artificial legs. And he was working in a store. And I'm going to be honest, he looked a little worse for wear. And quite frankly, I would too if I had gone through that.
Absolutely, yep.
But he was out there and he could be very easily working on disability or living off of disability or what have you. His ass was out there working.
Yep.
And so I think about that guy with the two artificial legs. And then I think about these two twits on my X feed who are ripping people off. And that's why I have such a resentment for people who rip off we, the American people. Who also recognizes that is Scott Jennings, who was talking about this and a number of other things.
And the Republican ethos is encouraging work. The Democratic ethos is encouraging government dependence. There's nothing politically devastating about trying to bar 1.4 million illegal aliens from getting welfare. There's nothing politically devastating about encouraging 4.8 million people who choose not to work to try to work a little in order to get government benefits. And they did in the Senate install a $50 billion fund for rural hospitals, which was something he also raised concerns about. So I don't agree with his political analysis, nor does virtually every other Republican who helped to craft and ultimately pass this bill. And I think Republicans ought to lean into these things. Work requirements are good. Yep. Encouraging work instead of welfare is a good thing, and it will work in campaigns.
I mean, Scott Jennings is absolutely right. Telling people that they need to go to work and exposing the frauds. I think that is incredibly important. And I love that. I really do. I love what Scott Jennings has to say there. And, it's going to be one of those moments, one of those issues in the campaign.
And the left will use this. This is that issue of, they're cutting Medicare. This is not a cut. And if Republicans need to get behind it and get forceful about it.
You're
get
right.
in people's faces. Mm-hmm. Stop letting them say that this is a cut.
No, because clearly it is not a cut. And part of the frustration that I have always had with the media and the Democrats is obviously they all have their talking points, right? They all have their talking points. And part of what frustrates me is that the Republicans, they're not as forceful as they need to be. They're not as aggressive. I've been talking a lot about this over the last year, where Republicans need to get angry. Republicans need to go on the attack. You'll notice that Republicans are being attacked on a daily basis in this country. And I think that what they need to do is they really do need to go after these folks, and they need to expose them because, at least for me, I believe that there is plenty to expose. Now, there is there's something that happened yesterday, and I wish I could find the audio, but I can't. But because I went away from the piece of audio, but the president was hosting a bunch of folks from Liberia. Have you heard about this?
No.
So the president is hosting a bunch of people from Liberia, and I guess a lot of them were talking about, were saying things in whatever language it was. But then I guess the president of Liberia said something in perfect English. And so President Trump says, well, you speak such perfect English. Where did you learn how to speak such perfect English? You must have been, where'd you go, like Harvard or what? And the guy says, well, I learned how to speak English in Liberia. Apparently English is the official language of Liberia.
Oh.
Who knew that?
I didn't know that. Nope.
So now you have, but this is the crazy thing. Now you have the people on the left and they're saying, oh, this is proof. This is proof that Donald Trump, he's losing his mind and he's losing his cognitive abilities, trying to equate it to Joe Biden. And no, I don't believe that is the case at all. I just find it funny, actually. And for me, I think this is one of those moments where President Trump is like, maybe he missed a meeting and somebody missed telling the president that you're going to have a bunch of folks speaking in, is it Liberia? I don't know they were speaking, maybe I don't know what it was, but there was a bunch of things said in a language. And then I guess the president of Liberia said something in perfect English and it threw Trump off. So anyway, I find it funny. There's a big difference between that and what Joe Biden did all the time. I will say this, though, and I've got some audio coming up in the next hour that I'm going to play for you folks of Donald Trump. And there's a number of different things that he's talking about. But I will say that he sounds tired.
The president does?
Donald Trump
I noticed
sounds
that,
tired.
too.
Did you notice
that,
Joan?
And
he sounds tired.
He also, sometimes they do flashbacks to the first term or whatever. I notice now that he looks a little older.
Well, he got shot in the ear.
Yeah.
And he is dealing with a lot. And the man does not get any sleep. Have you ever wondered, like this happens to me, and I bet you it happens to Trump too, where he knows that he's got to get sleep, right? He knows that he should be sleeping, but he can't sleep. That happens to me. And I think that happens to Trump too.
I think that there are people. So I have an aunt that's like this. She might sleep 2 or 3 hours a night. Every night. It's always been that way in her life. That's just her sleep need is only that amount of time. And she's up. And so I think I think President Trump falls into that category of people. He just doesn't need all that much sleep.
But he looks tired. He looks tired. He sounds tired.
Yeah.
But you know what? You can't tell me that he is suffering cognitively. There's no way.
Not even close.
He may say some things, at times, and he takes the long way around. He's very proud of the weave and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, personally, he is still, despite the whole thing with help me out. The client list, Epstein client list. Despite the Epstein client list, there's a lot of good things that are happening, and I do agree with President Trump on that. By the way, I found that audio of the president with Liberia.
Oh, yeah. Good.
So this is 19 seconds.
Well, thank you. It's such good English, such beautiful. Where did you learn to speak so beautifully? Where were you educated? Where?
Yes, sir.
In Liberia.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's very interesting. It's beautiful English.
Sure.
I have people at this table can't speak nearly as well.
There you go. So that is President Trump, and then dude's just like, well, Liberia, man, Liberia. So I guess English is the official language of Liberia. Did they ever pass, by the way, making English the official language of the United States. I know that Trump put it, I believe, into an executive order.
Oh, yeah. I don't think so.
But did Congress ever codify that? Why is that so hard? I don't even know.
Codifying anything is hard for Congress.
Bunch of boobs.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. It is 5:51. Oh, real quick. So Tom Tillis is saying that Pete Hegseth is what is it, above his depth or whatever it is they say. He is not up to the job of being defense secretary. That's what Tom Tillis is saying. And you know what my question would be? Out of his depth is what I should say.
Yeah.
Pete Hegseth is out of his depth. So here's what I would ask Tom Tillis. Now, first of all, you know that Trump has been going after Tom Tillis, the senator. And Tillis has always been somebody who has not been a fan of Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form. And for him to say that Pete Hegseth is out of his depth, do you know what I would have to ask Tillis? Because CNN is all over this morning, is what evidence do you have that Pete Hegseth is out of his depth? Because, you know, the media loves to say, Donald Trump said, Republicans said, without evidence. Okay, so I'm going to ask Tom Tillis, what evidence do you have that Pete Hegseth is out of his depth? You don't. Military recruitment is up, and we had the attack on Iran, which was, stellar. Absolutely no issues whatsoever. We also took out the Houthi rebels. So somebody please tell me, what evidence is there that the defense secretary is out of his depth? I don't think that there is. Now, CNN is not going to talk about all of the positive things that are going on with Pete Hegseth. I think that it is just one of those, little talking points that the left and people on the right who are anti-Donald Trump and the media likes to say about Pete Hegseth. But as far as I can tell, Joan, correct me if I'm wrong, and you people on the super text line, correct me if I'm wrong. But is there any evidence that Pete Hegseth is out of his depth?
Well, have you seen the reports about that Hegseth paused munitions to Ukraine without anybody knowing about it?
No.
Yeah.
I've not
okay.
seen
So
that.
that's like one of those things that's being ginned up, in my humble opinion, by the media. So I saw a little spat of it yesterday here, like at ABC News, and then CNN picked up on it, and they would just mention it in their stories, glossing over it a little bit. It's almost like they roll these ideas out to see if they gain traction and if anybody's going to pick up and run with it.
Right. Yeah,
And so that happened yesterday. I saw it in a couple of different places, but it never got picked up widely and used to, hit Hegseth over the head like they've been doing with him.
That sounds like one of those stories where there's going to be a lot more information and a lot more context on that at some point.
Yes.
Like I'm having a hard time believing that one guy could just do that. You know what I mean? I don't know. That just sounds a little sus to me. So,
yep.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I went to a day late and a dollar short, but one of my, just so everybody knows, all of you are my favorite listeners. Each and every one of you.
Suck up.
But I'm like Andy Ogles and Trump.
Yeah.
So, but there's one listener that is really, truly near and dear to my heart. And she is known as Snark over on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy Erin, she's actually a friend. She came to my wedding, actually. And yesterday was her birthday. I think she's about 45. I think that's what Erin is. She's about 45. But yesterday was her birthday. And I had it actually written down on my piece of paper that I was supposed to wish Erin a happy birthday, and I shanked it. So I ran in after I was over, and I said, Chris, make sure that you wish Snark a happy birthday over there on the YouTube channel. And I don't know if he did or not. Did he yesterday? Because he was supposed to.
Yeah,
did he?
We talked about it, yeah.
Okay, good. Mm-hmm. All right. So thank you and happy birthday to Erin. She is awesome and a big supporter of the radio station and one heck of a patriot as well. So happy birthday to Erin. I've always thought about maybe doing listener birthdays on a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we could just, every day we could randomly mention listener birthdays. You know what the problem is? Like if I've thought about trying that, is that I say that I'm going to do it, and then nobody ever sends in a birthday. So then the whole thing falls short. So I've decided not to do that. Unless somebody wants to say, hey, wish my wife a happy anniversary, which we're happy to do. Or if somebody does say, hey, wish so-and-so a happy birthday, I'm happy to do it. If you send it in and I happen to see it on the super text line, I'm more than willing. because I appreciate our listeners that much. Now, I don't think that y'all should be on Mount Rushmore, like Andy Ogles with Donald Trump. I'm still blown away by that. But a lot of folks did say they agreed that Donald Trump, even though he's not finished with the second term, should be up on Mount Rushmore. Whatever. 5:56. Joan, what's coming up?
Well, he is the transportation secretary, and now Sean Duffy is multitasking at another agency. Also, Grok is getting Elon Musk into trouble. We've got those
my gosh.
stories. Yeah.
This story. Holy smokes. All right, yeah. I'll save it for you, Joan. I couldn't believe when I saw this story.
Yep, that's all coming up here at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.